Hello, and welcome to the sixth episode of the Eloquence podcast. In this episode, we are joined by Dr. Petr Motlicek, and he's a senior researcher at the Idiap Research Institute in Switzerland, and also associate professor at Brno University of Technology. With a strong background in the speech processing and spoken language understanding, Peter has contributed to numerous European and national AI projects, working on cutting-edge advancements in trustworthy and explainable AI. He has been also participating as a researcher or principal investigator in several European and national projects, including many industrial collaborations. So we will explore more about Peter's background, experience, and work within the Eloquence project. So let's dive in. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Nevena.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. Nice to actually talk to you.
Thank you. We will start with the questions. For the first one, it's the easy one. So you are, as we mentioned, a senior research scientist at the Idiap Research Institute, and you are focusing on the speech processing and the spoken language understanding. Could you share a bit about your journey into AI and also what inspired you at first to pursue this field and what excites you the most about your current work?
So my journey actually has started with Brno University of Technology, which is also one of the partners in ELOQUENCE project.
Yeah.
It has started, of course, a long time back. In my case, it was kind of master's studies at electrical engineering, and then I had actually chance. I met, I would say, the right person, and I moved towards something more towards like information or computer science at the same university, and I've started actually working on my PhD. At that time, of course, the technologies or the goals were different than what we see now. I actually have started to investigate the problem of data-driven models for speech communication, more precisely for speech coding. So the task was like how we can actually encode the voice of humans or the speech and to transmit it to the from the receiver or from transmitter to the receiver side with minimum bit rates, let's say. That's what we can see now as what MPEG or MP3 coders are doing. But at that time, we wanted to use actually so-called data-driven models or machine learning models to do that. And that's how actually I started working really in a direction of machine learning now, which is more seen as artificial intelligence. But of course, the field of speech or AI in general has evolved a lot. And we have now, or in that time, we have been more working on detecting, understanding, or actually recognizing the patterns in the data and so on. But now we are going more towards really understanding, not only recognizing these patterns, but also understanding actually what's going on. And I would say there is now a large overlap between kind of the detection tasks and natural language understanding. And that's actually one of the directions of eloquence, I would say. More concretely, what we in fact we want to do is to go towards dialogue modeling. I would say a typical scenario for us as where actually the eloquence started was analyzing the call center kind of data or communication and supporting the humans, in this case, I would say the operators or the managers who are kind of running or observing the call centers with the artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm. And as you started to speak about the eloquence, you lead important tasks within the work package 3. and it is focusing on the interpretable and trustworthy AI systems. Could you explain what exactly interpretable and trustworthy AI means and why it is crucial for AI-based dialogue systems?
Yes. So again, in terms of eloquence, I would say the objective, of course, is that these AI technologies which we want to eventually integrate, and they are well aligned with this dialogue modeling, let's say, they should be interpretable or explainable. While this is quite usual term for AI, which means like the AI should generate such output or made the decisions or predictions which are understood, clearly understood to the end user. And you can imagine, I would say, again, usual scenario is that these technologies are being used by consumers or even partially experienced users as black boxes. Those are really like models which typically the users don't know how they were trained, how they were developed, and the only information which they are aware is the information which goes in, which they provide, of course, and which is given by these models. But that's probably not sufficient, right? So if we want really to rely on these technologies, we cannot only actually get the information or the output from these models, but these outputs or information extracted by AI needs to be explained or interpreted. Meaning, we need to, for example, to understand where that information which is given back to us is coming from.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm,
One of the typical case again for the intelligence would be what source of information has been used for, right? So where that information has been found, if it is in case of information retrieval. So again, we want to more or less, in other kind of words, we want to actually provide the AI technologies with some kind of reliability scores, let's say, or reliability in general. We ideally would like to have some kind of similar behavior to humans, where the human is able to say, I don't know, which, but on the other side,
mhm,
the machine typically cannot do that. So even though the task cannot be resolved by the machine is going to provide some information, which is of course going to be fault, wrong, but
mhm,
but we will not get that. So I would say it can be seen as a reliability score or something which tells us that the machine probably does not provide correct output, and we should not trust to that machine at that place. But of course, in other cases, the machine is correct, and we would like to rely on that. So
mhm.
that's probably the answer to this.
Yeah, I agree. And I would like to have in the future some AI that we could really, really trust. And one of your tasks involves efficient knowledge infusion, especially in high-risk scenarios with a human in the loop. What does this process look like in practice, and why is human involvement especially crucial in high-risk AI scenarios?
So the answer to this question would be probably quite related to the previous answer
Mhm,
question. Again, we can imagine, of course, there are many use cases where the AI technologies are being used or are going to be developed for. And one of the kind of splits for this or division is actually low risk and high risk applications. High risk applications, again, people may well understand high risk application in medical treatment or analysis of medical data of the patients. And typically, this is, of course, assisted by the doctor. So the machine should support the doctor in case of analyzing the big data, let's say, finding the patterns in the data, let's say
mhm,
in the scans and so on. But eventually, there should be collaboration between the machine and the doctor. Probably we don't want the machine to make a decision without agreeing with the doctor and so on. So this is one of the type of the of the applications. But for us, for Eloquence, again, if I go back to call center domain, and this could be, for example, one of the typical use case for higher risk application is emergency calls analysis or
Mm-hmm.
emergency calls in general, 112, where, of course, again, we need to make sure that the information extracted from these calls during the emergency cases, again, are correct, for example. And we are not going to simply get incorrect information for the downstream applications or users, which is, for example, the helicopter, which is going to travel or to go to the place of accident, and this place of accident, the address is wrongly extracted from the call. So I would say the answer to this question is, of course, that we need to again reduce the potential risks like hallucinations or providing wrong information by the AIs. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
direction is, of course, knowledge infusion, which you have actually mentioned. So, for example, linking the AI, the search of information or information retrieval with the local databases, right? So that could be one of the direction, and this is, of course, what people are working on. So that the model is not going to generate the fault address or the names, but it will be actually kind of aligned with the existing databases, which are typically internal. The other example could be actually that there is, of course, the human involved in these cases, which is typically operator, and that operator has also the knowledge, which is internal towards a given use case. And that could be also actually exploited during the AI providing the output.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a clearer picture now. Thank you. Idiap participates in the work package 3, but also in the work package 2 on tasks to adapt existing LLMs for complex conversational data. And what has been done for this work during the first year of Eloquence?
Actually, one of the work which we have already did for the use case of dialogue modeling is that there was a large collection, or there was actually the project which resolved to integrate large collection of the data related to dialogue modeling into one repository, which allows us
Mm-hmm.
actually to really train or well actually evaluate the dialogue modeling kind of related models or technologies. In fact, the point is again that or the main goal of creating this database is to be able to train some kind of large language models, or the models which are actually built on these encoder decoder architectures, which are able actually to extract some kind of hidden or embedding vectors which are related not to let's say the semantic information of these calls, but more like they are well describing the whole sequence of the dialogue. So you can imagine that typical dialogue again in call centers is a sequence of the states which are supposed
Mm-hmm.
to be followed by or are expected to be followed by the agents or the operators. And again, this sequence of the states, which may start from the greeting, of course, then information, analysis of information, providing the feedback to the customer, maybe concluding the call, maybe some kind of summary. This could also be turned into some kind of information which is stored in the embeddings, kind of like hidden latent variables.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
These kind of hidden embeddings could be used later for downstream applications. So how we can actually model concretely for one of the typical or our applications or the task we want to work on is how to actually again provide some kind of reliability score that the call has been correctly resolved. So if
Mm-hmm.
there is a manager who is supposed to kind of observe these kind of calls, not each call, but should kind of react when the call has not been correctly resolved and should actually get into the process, how we can support such a management team who can actually buy the information that, for example, this call was not correctly resolved, the customer is not satisfied with the output or with the answer provided, and so on.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And since in the Eloquence you have a lot of tasks to do, one of your tasks addresses optimizing model explanations. And why is providing clear and effective explanations so challenging within the dialogue systems? And what approaches are you currently exploring to address these challenges?
So again, probably partially answered these questions already before. The models, the machine learning AI models are actually developed in the way that they can easily hallucinate, they can provide false information. And even though that information provided sounds or looks reliable, so we don't get really any support or satisfying support for detecting the situations when the model went wrong. And so that's one of the aspects of the problem, of course, already mentioned. But then, of course, the user not only wants to see the output, the predicted output or detected output, or summary of information or retrieve information in case of questioning and answer problem, but also providing some kind of explanation why that output has been given. One of the situation where it is definitely going to be necessary is any type of regulation, which is aligned with, again, using of AI technologies. And these regulations, I would say now clearly says that in case of, again, depending on the applications, but in definitely in case of risky applications, the explanation needs to be provided back to the user so that user can or the manager can actually decide when the technology can be used or whether that output is relevant or not. So again, the problem is that the model can provide faulty information, and maybe the explanations could actually help to navigate the user to understand that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And we are almost finished, but I have several questions more. Where do you see the future of trustworthy and explainable AI evolving in the next decade? And also, are there emerging trends that you find particularly promising or concerning in some kind?
There are many trends. Actually, there is a lot of work by the community, AI community. So they're working these aspects. What I find interesting, or what we have been partially already investigating, is let's say causality of AI systems. So it can be described as moving beyond correlations to understand cause and effect relationships in AI decision making. So um, it's not only to actually provide again the decision making or to provide the decision by the AI, but also to understand what could be the cause effects of that decision by the model itself.
Mm-hmm.
Second typical problem, which is again not new at all, it has been there really for decades, is a bias in the data or so-called bias mitigation, which is a usual problem of training data and the models being trained, of course, by the data. The data is never perfectly balanced, which is the optimal case. So if I want to make a detector for two tasks, for binary tasks, ideally the data should be balanced for these two tasks or these two detection trials, but it is never the case, or Rarely it is the case. You may see that also as the issue which is related to detecting the rare behavior, rare patterns in the data.
Mm-hmm.
Typical problem for, let's say, for speech technologies is how to recognize or detect the words which have never been seen during training. So the humans are
Mm-hmm.
very good in detecting something which is very rare, which is happening only once in a lifetime maybe, and the human
Yeah.
is still able to detect it even though they may not understand this. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Whatever is happening on the street, in nature and so on, we are able really to well behave in that sense, but the machines are going to fail on that.
Mm-hmm.
Able to detect or typically recognize the patterns which were not seen during training. And of course, we cannot cover all training examples. Let's say we cannot cover all possible cars which were developed which are maybe driving on the roads at this moment. So
Mm-hmm.
again, the humans can do it, the machines cannot, and this is one of the trend or one of the problem which I would say is still there. So bias mitigation. I also mentioned the third term which I can say or describe now is AI regulation. So governments and organizations which are implementing rules for safe and responsible AI, they also actually are actually following or providing regulations related to how this AI should be used or should behave in these cases.
Mm-hmm. And we have AI Act that is preparing some of the documents, and we are going to see it this year, I think.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And some short questions, private one. Favorite AI or tech innovation?
Interesting question. I was thinking about that right before the meeting, but eventually I went to something which is quite generic. I would
Mm-hmm.
say we want to use these machines, models, or AI kind of engines which are going to support the humans. I think that's the intuition of many of researchers in this domain. So we don't want to really replace the human in all tasks. I think it's more like to really to support
Mm-hmm.
them. But on the other side, we probably would like to use the machines. Let's say the robotics is really the trendy thing at this moment. We want to replace, I think, as a society, as a community or humans, we want to replace the humans in manual work, the work which is repetitive, which
Mm-hmm.
I would say no one really wants to do, and we should rather use the humans for something which is more interesting. Maybe there is the place where actually our brains could be used more in a better way than so far,
Efficient.
more
Yeah.
efficiently. Exactly. Um, so that's one of the direction, right? And I think we see that, right? We see that everywhere around us, in shopping malls where there are now like automated machines for payments. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
will come quite soon to the streets, to the roads where there will be autonomous cars, and it will definitely happen sooner or later.
Yeah,
So there are many
definitely.
actually directions, but of course there are still several problems which may actually kind of slow this the time when it comes. So one of these directions is really replacing the manual work. The second, I would say, well, what I see as a something as tech innovation, and I've seen it actually probably yesterday on some of the pictures, is advancement in consumer electronics in general.
Mm-hmm.
If you imagine what people have been using in 80s, what kind of electronics was about or around us, and we have been using, starting with the CD players, with cameras, with some kind of voice recorders, and now we can imagine everything is in one piece of electronic, and we have it in our pocket.
Yeah.
Um, we have it actually in our cell phones. So, and of course, all this is not only hardware, but it's supported by enormously strong software technologies in general. And the third point, I would say information sharing across the globe. how
Mm-hmm.
fast we can exchange the information or we can find information in good or bad way, of course, about well from anywhere in the world at this time.
Yeah, and it depends how we refine it and what previous knowledge we have. Definitely. I agree with you. And another question, do you use more coffee or tea during the research?
Um, Usually I drink coffee during the day. If that means I'm doing research, then I drink coffee. But
Yeah,
I
working
typically
while working.
but I typically start with the tea in the morning and preferring tea in the evening as well. So I would say the both.
Uh-huh, okay. And one piece of advice for aspiring AI researchers?
Also interesting question. I would say understanding we cannot simply ignore the previous work, the past work. So kind of understanding what has been done already in the past, which typically for researchers, for PhD students means, well, you need to go through the papers, submissions, journals, and so on to see what is existing, what is being already done, and so on. But on the other side, also there needs to be a room for creativity. So just only looking to the past is probably not sufficient or not good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like balance between the both. To be creative, maybe to have, I would say, maybe these crazy ideas which might not sound right at the given time, but they may actually be very interesting for the near future. But still having in mind that there was a lot of work already being done in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. A bit of craziness and creativity. Thank you, Peter, for sharing your expertise and insights today with us. And before we wrap up, is there any final message you'd like to share about your work within Eloquence with our listeners?
Well, happy to collaborate with many partners. Many of them are actually new, and there was still not enough time to really know actually everyone. So I hope there will be more opportunities for that. But on the other side, we are happy collaborating with others, meeting them, and I think eloquence in general goes very well. Even though we are not yet past even the half of the project, I'm looking
Mhm.
forward for the second half.
Yeah, definitely. For the second half, I think we will have more concrete results.
Absolutely.
Thank you once again, and bye till the next time.
Thank you as well. Never know.